Hello, and welcome to your video lecture on pricing. You know, most marketing managers have what's known as a love-hate relationship with pricing, which is one of the 4 P's of the marketing mix. If they need to, say, increase sales quickly, they pull the pricing lever, or they will lower price. However, most marketing managers are also evaluated not only on sales, but also on profitability of their product line. So when they lower the price, what happens? Their profit goes down. So even though they're driving more sales, they're lowering profitability. However, most sales managers are, generally speaking, evaluated only on sales. So they love it when marketing managers lower the price. The other thing is, it's kind of like Pavlov's dog. If you continue to lower the price, then people will not buy until, of course, you do lower price. And if your customers are only buying after you've lowered price, well, you might as well just keep the price low. Everyday low price like Walmart does. Some companies like the Men's Warehouse and Amazon Prime have 2 sales a year. They have a sale around Black Friday, and they have a sale sometime around now. Well, Amazon Prime's is usually in July. And that way, consumers aren't only buying when there's a sale. However, Sears, on the other hand, people wouldn't buy until there was a sale at Sears, and look at what happened to Sears. They went out of business. So, again, it's a love-hate relationship. We are going to talk all about the different consumer strategies around pricing and the different strategies about pricing and everyday low pricing and different pricing tactics, different pricing strategies, and all that in the next lecture. So with that being said, welcome to the first of your lectures after face-to-face classes were canceled. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon. So as I said in the introduction, welcome to Chapter 11, Developing Pricing Strategies and Pricing Tactics or Pricing Programs. In a digital world, pricing, you can get instant vendor comparisons. So consumers really have all the power. They can take a look at, let's say they want a particular product at a particular brand. They want a Nike tennis shoe or something like that. Well, consumers can go online and they can check from store to store to store to store to see if anybody's having sale on that particular product with that particular brand or what have you. They can also check prices at the point of purchase. They have all kinds of ways to check pricing. Therefore, pricing managers or marketing managers have to be very savvy about how they price. And oftentimes they can't rely solely on price for the sale of their product, or they are in trouble and people will only buy it when there is a sale. So the other thing is, you Zs and millennials are really changing the environment around pricing because you're doing more sharing. An example would be Netflix. Most of you don't have your own Netflix account. You're sharing somebody else's Netflix account. Oftentimes, you're renting instead of buying. So you're leasing cars, you're renting apartments, you're doing those types of things, and you're not making that commitment to buy. Also, another big thing is borrowing. That happens oftentimes in the farming industry. If you need to harvest your fields or something like that, you'll borrow somebody that has a harvester just for the day or for the weekend or something like that. Borrowing happens oftentimes in heavy equipment, heavy machinery, and those types of things. So really, we're becoming more of a changing environment. People aren't making the plunge there in order to purchase something. They're using other methods that are a lot cheaper and a lot more efficient for them. So generally, companies priced by division or product line managers will take a look, and if they need additional sales, they will drop the price. If raw materials increase, they will up the price. They basically do it what we would call in a vacuum from their own offices. Small companies, the boss makes all the decisions on what the price, and they set the price probably based on what the competition and what people will think that they should pay. How companies should price, however, is understanding consumer pricing psychology. And if you guys took consumer behavior with Dr. Kiani, she does a lot of talking about understanding consumer buying behavior and consumer pricing and what pricing means to consumers. A lot of that course has to do with consumers and consumer pricing philosophies and those types of things. And they should use a systematic approach to setting and adapting price, taking a look at all types of factors such as demand, supply, raw materials, taking a look at how much it costs, how much people are willing to pay to maximize not only their profit, but also maximize their market share, depending on what they're trying to do. So going into consumer psychology and pricing, generally speaking, a consumer has a reference price. If you look at, say, something like this pen right here, there's a reference price for that pen. No one is going to pay more than a couple of dollars for that pen. So they expect to pay $1 or $2 for this pen. It's kind of a nice pen. No one would pay $100 for that pen. It's a reference price. If that pen was offered for sale at, say, a Staples for $100 or $50 even, people would say, well, why is that pen worth that much? I would never pay that much for that pen. However, a Mont Blanc or a Waterford pen or something like that can be as high as $50 because it is a high-end pen. The other thing is most consumers have price quality inferences. If they see something is higher priced, they immediately say it's got to be a higher quality because the price is higher. And then finally, consumers have a tendency to gravitate towards price endings, the 99s or the 98s. So if something is $6.99, they don't think of it as $7. They think of it as $6, even though it is actually a penny short of $7. So if something's $19.99, and you always see $19.99 because $20 is one of those thresholds that people say, I am not going to buy it if it's $20. But at $19.99, they have a tendency to do so. So if you look at especially all that garbage that's on TV that people are trying to sell, oftentimes it's $19.99. So setting the price, there are really 6 steps to setting the price. Please understand these 6 steps. You are going to be tested on them heavily. So you first define your objective. Then you determine the demand. Again, the higher the supply, the lower the cost. The higher the demand, the higher the cost. You estimate your cost. You analyze your competitor's price. You select the pricing method. And then you select the final price. We're going to talk about each one of those 6 as we move through this particular video lecture. First of all, setting the pricing objective. The first objective, and all of these generally speaking are mutually exclusive. So you can't have survival as well as maximizing market share. You can't have survival as well as maximizing market skimming. These are all mutually exclusive. One, you can't have 2 of these objectives, in other words, 2 or 3 of these objectives. So let's start with survival. Survival means that you are just out there pricing to make sure that you stay in business. Right now, airlines are pricing in survival mode. They're trying to drop the price just to make sure they fill that one extra seat. They're trying to do anything they can to survive, anything just to cover expenses. They don't really care. Survival means you don't really care whether you're making money on the particular product. You are just trying to keep the doors open at this point in time. Survival happens when there are things like what's going on right now, a pandemic for hotels and the travel industry, or when things are real bad, like the economy is really bad and cars are just trying to survive because no one's buying cars. The next one is maximizing current profit. Maximizing current profit is you are keeping your price as high as you possibly can in order to maximize current profit. People like Lexus does that because they want to have that mystique of pricing, and they want to maintain their current profit and keep their profit as high as they possibly can. These oftentimes are for luxury goods for maximizing current profit. Maximizing market share is really lowering price in order to make money on the product, but also capturing market share. Some people would call it buying market share. Keeping your price low. Oftentimes you do that when you're entering a market that's already saturated or have products out there. Lenovo did that when they bought the IBM ThinkPad and they wanted to gain a foothold in the American market. They dropped their price to maximize market share quickly and then raised their price later to meet competitive demand or meet competition. Market skimming happens when you are the only one in there. Fitbit did that when they first started. Fitbit's prices were very, very high. They skimmed the market. As competition comes in, then what you're going to do is you're going to lower your price. So that's market skimming, or other people would call it price skimming. Price quality leadership is keeping your products high in order to have that perception of quality. Nike, Under Armour, those types of people, those types of company have their product quality leadership, whereas somebody like Champion is more of a middle of the road type of pricing and quality type of thing. And then of course, companies could have other objectives too. There's all kinds of different things that you can do in order to have a pricing objective. You can also do it on a per product line basis. For instance, Nike and golf clubs. Even though Nike keeps most of their products high, if they wanted to enter the market in golf clubs, they could maximize market share and lower their golf clubs in order to enter the golf balls and enter the market and then raise them low at a later date. So there's all kinds of different objectives you can do, and there's all kinds of different objectives you can do on a per product line basis. Number 2, determining demand. Obviously, the more demand there is for the product, the higher the price. The less demand there is for the product, the lower the price, or the higher the supply is. Right now, there is absolutely no demand in the travel industry, so those prices are falling. Right now, I can fly to Florida. Unfortunately, I won't. I'd like to see my parents, but I'm afraid of the current pandemic. But I could fly to Florida round trip for under $70 right now because nobody is flying. So the demand is so low, the prices go down. The more sensitive your product is to supply and demand, the more price sensitive it is. And then, of course, you've got price elasticity of demand. And that are some things like there are products that are very inelastic. Those would be medicines and things like that, which means you would buy the product at any price. And then there's our things that are very elastic, which means that doesn't matter how much you buy, you're going to pay the same price. And that would be things like what we would call a commodity good. Paper, oftentimes products like corn and wheat and those types of commodities are that. So then the other thing that step 3 is estimating costs. Obviously, you can't sell below your costs and make it up on volume. That's ridiculous. As a matter of fact, there was a car dealer that used to, back in Cleveland when I was a young lad in high school. And I remember that the car dealership used to advertise that they were going to take a loss on a particular product and make it up on volume. And I thought that was ridiculous even when I was in high school. You can't do that. So what you have to do is you've got to estimate your costs, looking at both fixed costs and variable costs. Obviously, fixed costs are just that. Those are capital costs like your rent or your machines or the cost of your building, everything that is going to be fixed that doesn't vary with product. And then, of course, variable costs usually is the raw materials that are going into the product. So you take a look at that, and then you try to maximize your profit given your costs, given the product fixed cost. So obviously, you know, if you sell a lot, your variable costs decrease on a per product basis or on a per item basis as you sell more. So people try to do that. So let's stop here for part 1 of estimating or pricing. We will come back in a minute with part 2.